Hi, welcome to the Introstat lecturing series. This is another lecture quiz helper. So for this quiz helper, we're going to work on the lecture quiz number 3.6. And hopefully, this quiz helper can help you to solve the problems on the lecture quiz 3.7. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at what type of the problems we have here. Okay, so the first province here, let's take a look. I said a few years ago, and so a few years ago, a Census Bureau reported 67.4% of the American families own their own homes. Census data reveal that ownership rate in one small city is much lower. The city council is debating a plan to offer tax break, to a first-time home buyer in order to encourage people to become homeowners. They decided to adopt a plan on a two-year trial based on the two-year trial basis and use the data they collect to make a decision about a continued tax break. Since this plan cost the city tax revenue, they will continue to use it if only there is strong evidence that the rate of a homeowner is increasing. What will be their hypothesis to be? All right, so like this one's here. All right, so we want to see here. So the first is here, we say what the hypothesis will be. Okay, so let's try to write what we have here. So this is H0, HA. Okay. So when you read it, we said the city council debating whether to have a tax break. They said that we only decided to adopt this tax break if, if there is a strong evidence that the rate of ownership is increasing. So that's why we said that this one here is a homeowner. Let's see here. This is a home ownership rate increasing. All right. Then the non-hypothesis here will be the home ownership remains the same, right? That's what is will be our alternative. So let's see which one match our answers here. So the one is said the non-hypothesis is the level of home ownership remains the same. The alternative is that is changed. Okay, so here for the first ones here, the keyword is changed. We don't know is change be increasing or decreasing, right? So we cannot choose this one. Okay, so now here's the non-hypothesis level of the home ownership remains the same. The alternative is let rise. Oh yes, so I know the answer is B. Okay, let's take a look at what C is not right. The non-hypothesis is that the level of the ownership changes here. No, we said the ownership should remain the same. Okay, this here, the non-hypothesis is that the level of ownership rises here. The non-hypothesis is rises here. No, that's not rise, right? Okay, so now the next one's here. Let's say, what is a type 1 error? Okay, type 1 errors here, just like we did before. Let's first write down what is the type 1 arrows statistic definition. That means the type 1 arrow is H0 is true. And then you do what? You reject H0. Okay. And so let's try to, okay, so now after I know this is type 1, type 1 arrow, so H0 is true. That means the ownership remains the same, no change. Okay, then what is reject here? Reject the H0, then we say the ownership increase, right? So when I do increase, what I do here, I give them what? The tax, give them the residence a tax break. Okay, so now let's see which one, the match these definitions here. So the first one is said, well, the city raised tax. No, we did not say that. Okay, so the part B say the city continues the tax break. All right, so that means this is action, right? The ownership, the city thinks is ownership increase, so we remain in the tax break. So B is correct. Okay, so now the C here is, they say the city abandoned the tax break, but they were helping. Now we did not, never know that. Then the part D say the city conclude that the home ownership is on the rise. All right, so that's true. So it's on the rise is here, but in fact, the tax break don't help. No, that's not what we say. We said, we know it's on the rise, but we say probably because of the tax break helps here, right? So it's not this one. So they say there's no type 1 error. That's not true. So the B is the truth here. All right, so like we do those type of problems, so you need to write it out and then kind of translate or kind of inference to what's the problem means here. Okay, so now let's take a look at the problem number 2 here. The problem number 3 is here. They said, what is a type 2 error? So first things here, in order not to get confused, so let's try to write the type 2 error. What type 2 error? Type 2 error is H0 is false. Then what do we do here? We fail to reject H0. Okay, so we fail to reject H0s here. So now the next things here, now we need to write it out. What that means in the statements here, right? H0 is false. H0 is ownership is arising. That means ownership. H0 is ownership is remain the same. That is false. So ownership rate false, right? So it's increasing. And fails to reject ownership. That means fail to reject, then we will think the ownership remains the same. Right? So let's say if it's remaining the same, then what do? We don't want to give the tax break, right? So no tax break. We say we only want to do this, give the tax break is try to increase that. So in fact, the H0 is false. That means the ownership rate really increased, but we conclude the ownership rate remain the same. So we remove the tax break. All right, so let's see which one is correct. They say the city raised tax. No, I don't know. The city continued the tax break. No, the city is with no more tax breaks, right? So it's not here. Then the part C say the city abandoned the tax break, but they were helping. So so they abandoned, abandoned the tax break. That's true because they said no more tax break. But in fact, H0 is false. That means the ownership rate increased. So they are helping. So C is correct. Okay, so the part D is here. The city concludes that the homeowner is on the rise, but in fact, the tax break don't help. No, city did not say home ownership is on the rise. No, they conclude it's what remain the same, right? So it's not here, not here. So the answer will be part C, right? Okay, so now let's take a look at number 4 here. What would be harmed by a type 1 error? All right, so let's take a look here. This is the type 1 errors, right? Okay, so let's see what will be the harm by the type 1 errors, right? All right, the type 1 error. Okay, so type 1, that means is the ownership is remain the same. We are saying the city think ownership increase, we give them the break. So what is the disadvantage or the harm when you make these decisions here? The city going to lose money, right? So the impact is to the what? Is to the city, right? Because they remain the same, but you say is increase. So what is here? So the city will what? The city continue, right? The city continues on the tax break, right? So the city continues on the tax breaks here, right? So then, because they have a tax break, so then they lost what? They lost tax revenue, right? So let's see which one is the correct ones here. Let's say the city. Okay, city is right. So let's say it will lose the homeowner. No, that's not mean there. So we know the impact is the city. Oh, this one is right because it would lose the, the tax avenues here, right? Because they continue give the tax break. Because you give the tax break, then the city cannot take the tax revenue. So this will be this one. Okay, so then the part C say the impact of the citizen of the city. No, we know it's not the citizen of the city. So they would have pay higher taxes. No, they got a tax break. The citizen of the city, because they lose help and they could have used to buy a home, then they did not lose help because the city continue to have the tax breaks, right? All right, so the answer is what? Is a B here, right? Okay, now let's take a look at the number 5 here. So you say, what is the harm by a type 2 error? So let's go back to here. See, take a look at the type 2 error. Okay, so in here, so in fact, so the type 2 errors here. So in fact, the ownership of the house is increasing, and then they say no more tax break. So no more tax break. So who is going to be impacted? The impact is what? Is the citizens, right? The citizen of the cities or the residents of the city or the homeowners, right? Okay, so let's take a look. What it would be the best, the best description. So we know because they are really a rise, but then the city say no more tax breaks here, right? Let's see what is the correct answer. So part A, they say the city because it will lose homeowner. No, we don't know it will lose homeowner. Okay, so we say the city because it's going to lose the tax revenue. No, that's type 1 error. Then we say the citizen of the city because they would have to pay higher tax than before. All right, so sounds right. And so do they say the higher tax? Or let's see the D's here. The D say the citizen of the city because they're going to lose the help they could have to use to buy a home, right? So in here, this will be the more correct one because they said, we don't know they would pay the higher tax than before, and they just say we don't have this tax break. So that means they lose the help they could have to use to buy a home here. So the part D and the part C are very similar, but the part D is more accurate in this situation. They will get the, they will lose the help here. And that doesn't mean everybody going to pay the higher taxes, right? They just said that they don't have, so probably they will put the same amount of tax, they won't get the tax breaks here. Okay, so now the last ones here, let's take a look here. So what would be the power of this represent? Okay, like we do this, we always need to write. Okay, so let's see the power. Let's write into the statistical terms first. What is the power? Like we say, H0 is a what? Is a false. And we do what? We correctly reject H0s, right? So this is the definition of the power. Now let's transfer that or reference back. What is H0 is false. H0 is false. That means the ownership, home ownership rate is increasing, correct? Okay, then we say we reject H0. That means we think, we think the ownership is increasing. So because the ownership is increasing, right? So because we reject the null hypothesis, we think the ownership is increasing. So what are we going to do? We're going to keep the tax break, right? Okay, so now let's take a look which one is the best, all right? Okay, so let's see here, part A, let's see what is not right, the statement, okay? So they say the power of the test is a probability CT incorrect conclude a lack of the increasing in home, incorrect conclude a lack of the, no, did the CT correctly include, the ownership, is increasing. Okay, so let's see here. The second one is here. The power of the test is the city's ability to detect a lack of the increase in the home ownership. No, they did not say that. Then C here is the power of the test is the probability the city incorrect identified an increase in the home. No, they are correctly identified ownership increase. All right, so let's take a look at D. The power of the test is the city's ability to attack the actual increase in the home ownership, right? So the actual increase is H0 is false, is actual ownership is increased, and the city correctly identified it, so they keep the tax break, so it will be here. Then the number E is not right because every test always have a power associated with that. All right, so let's use the help for the quiz, lecture quiz 3.6. And so to help you, this quiz will help you first start from defining the null and alternative hypothesis and make sure you fully understand what is the type 1, type 2 error and the impact of type 1, type 2 error and what is the power, try to tell you. All right, and those are basically a very, very critical concept for this lectures, right? All right, that's it, and hope this help you to do your next lecture quiz number 3.7. All right, bye.